Hello and welcome to Odds on Champions League, last 16 round, first leg. Let's enjoy these 4 games of the last 16 round. I pretty much like the games this week, of course, to analyze everything. We have Dani Fisichella and Alvaro Romeo. Hello, guys.
Hello. Hi.
The previous week, 4 big favorites, 3 of them won. Bayern Munich lost in the Olympico, but this week, I think we are going to have much more debate on whose team is going to qualify. The odds are very good in this week, just a spoiler. So let's analyze everything. Remember, as always, press the like, subscribe, and now let's go on with the show. Well, and the first game is a really good one. I have to say that this one is my favorite one in the last 16 round. I'm talking about Inter Milan, Atlético de Madrid. Simeone is in the middle. He was Inter Milan player. He's coaching Atlético de Madrid, as we all know. And we have the runners-up of last year, Inter Milan, with an always difficult team to beat as Atlético de Madrid. When we knew the draw, Griezmann even said that this is going to be a hard-to-watch game or tie, not many goals. But I'm not that sure, Dani, because Inter is scoring plenty of goals in Serie A. They are in the best form of the season, won 9 out of the last 10 games, and the other game was a draw. And this Atlético de Madrid is not the classic Simeone style. This season, they concede a lot of goals, and they are sometimes leaky, especially when they play away.
I don't know what Griezmann meant with that phrase, but probably hasn't watched a lot of Inter games this season. But I don't think Simeone, Griezmann, and whoever plays for Atletico Madrid are going to park the bus at the San Siro. Because, as you mentioned, well, this is no longer the Atletico Madrid of the golden years of Cholismo, when Godin and Miranda were stifling in everyone in Europe, and especially away from home. They were packing the bus, 5-5-0, as Guardiola once said. This is a very different Atletico Madrid. First of all, because they're not as strong defensively as they used to be, so they can no longer play it that way. And it's no secret that Simeone has decided to switch to a back three this season with Witsel at the back. He wants to play the ball from the back more and try to attack more. They score more. They do concede more goals. But on the other hand, Inter have also improved a lot since last season. And what they improved a lot is that this season, they don't just content to go for the 1-0. They keep pushing and they keep going and they keep playing. And that's really, really important, because I think if Inter goes to the Wanda Metropolitano with a deficit to overcome, is almost mission impossible. If they go there with a good lead, 2-0 or more, they can qualify. 1-0 is absolutely tight, because we know Atletico Madrid are very, very strong at home. So Inter need to go for a big win here, which is something in the Champions League they haven't done many times. Actually, in the last season and a half, they only won by 1 more than goal margin at home, only against Victoria Pilsen, if you don't count the derby that was away at Milan, that 2-0 win. So really, they don't really go for big wins, but they need to try and do that. They only failed to score once this season. That was 0-0 against Real Sociedad, but Atletico are different from Real Sociedad, but I do expect them to press high. Look, they only lost 1 in the last 13 Champions League game. Inter clean sheet in 33% of the occasions, and Inzaghi record in knockout competition is amazing. 12 wins, 7 draw, 3 defeats, including the Champions League final, the 2 ties against Liverpool, 2 wins 2 seasons ago. So more than 50% win in the last 3 seasons for Inzaghi in knockout competition, including the cup. So he knows well how to prepare this sort of games. I think they're going to be goals here. I think Atletico approach is not going to be just defend. Inter can exploit some of the frailties of Atletico at the back. Lost 5 of the last 7 away games, by the way, Atletico. I'm going to go for over 2.25 goals, 195. As I said, Inter needs to get at least a 2 goals lead to be a little bit easier, to make it a little bit easier for them at the Wanda Metropolitano.
And probably Morata will be ready. He picked up an injury, but perhaps he can perform in this game. Alvaro, do you see Inter, this favorite, is 1.8 for them to win this game? To qualify is 1.5 for Inter, 2.5 for Atlético de Madrid.
No, I don't, even though I think that Inter is one of the best sides in Europe. But I think that Atlético de Madrid would have suffered more against the likes of Real Madrid or maybe Manchester City or even maybe Arsenal, I would say. Not necessarily Inter, but Inter in another tie and against another team would be, in my opinion, more favorite. I think that Simeone's game plan here is going to differ a lot from the game plan he would have had against a team like Manchester City. Atletico won't play as deep because they haven't been playing very deep this season, or at least they haven't been playing defensive football this season. They are trying to play from the back. And Atletico this season are finding their best results when attacking, not when defending. I think that tiredness can play a little bit of a factor here. Atletico de Madrid has played 12 games in 2024. Yeah. Inter only 8. The good thing for Atletico is that last week, finally, they got a midweek off, and that paid off because you could see that against Las Palmas. They beat them 5-0 in a game that I thought Las Palmas could have a little bit of a chance, maybe with a positive handicap. But Simeone could rest a little bit Rodrigo de Paul, who played only 30 minutes. De Paul has been very important this season. Antoine Griezmann didn't play a single minute. When it comes to Inter, what can I tell you? I mean, the danger is there. The clean sheets are there. 20 in all competitions this year. Thuram and Lautaro have scored 35 goals between them in all competitions, and Lautaro is going to hit 20 goals or more in Serie A for 3 seasons straight. So the numbers are there. The danger is there. And Atletico knows that. And this is probably a game for the rockiest players they've got. And when I speak about the rockiest players, I'm talking, for example, about Marcos Llorente, who has to play. I'm talking about Reinildo, who is probably the best defensive specialist of Atletico. And please, Samuel Lino, not Rodrigo Riquelme. I know that Atletico fans love Rodrigo Riquelme, but the real deal on the left is Samuel Lino, the rocky player who can actually defend, attack, and carry the ball a lot because he's very strong. Morata, let's see if he plays. If he doesn't, Memphis will probably be up front. My bets for this game will be, look, there is one that I really like, which is Griezmann to score or assist, because it pays a lot. It pays 3.1. And, you know, this season, Antoine Griezmann has astonishing numbers. But when it comes to the team markets, I will say Atletico to score over 0.5 goals in the game, 162.
Well, at least scoring 1 goal, both teams to score, I want to also highlight it, is 2.06 because the bookies don't expect both teams to score, 1.8. So you both guys see value in the goals market, since the bookies don't expect many goals. They expect a game plan similar as to what Griezmann said. Griezmann, by the way, he had a poor month recently, but also he was a bit tired. Let's see if the minutes he rested at the weekend is very positive for the full-time market. You won't go for it, Dani, Alvaro, with this 0.8 for Inter?
I could go for an Asian handicap minus 0.25 for Inter, 1.6. But I prefer the goals markets, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me the same. I don't think you will find a higher price at the moment for Inter to win. So it's good price, really, for the leader of Serie A to win this one. But yeah, probably Asian handicap minus 0.25 is probably is the wisest. But I see goals here, both to score. Yeah, definitely.
And we can agree this is a stronger Inter, Dani, than last season, even if last season they reached the final.
Even if they change 11 players, they look more cohesive. They got more options as well, and they got a stronger bench. Of course, the like of Carlos Augusto, Buchanan, of course, Aslani, Frattesi. Yes, it is a stronger bench.
Well, a very good game on Tuesday. The bookies don't expect many goals. Our tipsters do expect goals. In the other one, the bookies expect goals, and I'm talking about PSV. Borussia Dortmund, PSV really favorite for this game, even if the odds are good, 2.2. I'm talking about the leaders of the Eredivisie, no defeats domestically this season, apart from the cup, only 2 draws in the league, but in the Champions League, lost only to Arsenal, remember, but they suffer even against Sevilla. But this Borussia Dortmund is stronger, I would say, than in the first part of the season, when they did great in the Champions League, but very poor domestically. Now they've been stronger in 2024, only with a couple of draws away from home. Alvaro, do you see goals? Should we back Dortmund here? Remember that they were able to beat Newcastle and Milan away.
Yeah, they were. They qualified, and they qualified first in a very difficult group. I think that they did a very good group stage. I still believe that this is a side that is lacking a lot of things, really. But they really knew how to play in that short group stage. But if you see the bigger picture, for example, in the Bundesliga, they are fourth. And for example, they couldn't win this weekend, and they drew with Wolfsburg. And Edin Terzic said that he wasn't happy with the result and the performance. If you check the bigger picture again, when Sebastian Aller, I think that he's out for the game, and this is a big miss. The last time they reached the quarterfinals of the Champions League was 3 years ago, and they have reached the quarterfinals of the competition once in 6 years. So for me, they are not European royalty at all, even though they tried to be about 10, 11 years ago, and they were close to winning the Champions League. But I think that this is a side that, can offer mixed performances. I remember last season, for example, they played against the terrible Chelsea, and they couldn't beat them in the Champions League, as far as I remember. So no, I don't trust Borussia Dortmund. I know that they have done a very good group stage, and I praise them for that. But I think that I'm going to trust more the home side, at least for the game. Then for the tie, it's a very different story, because I think that PSV and Eindhoven, they also have to prove themselves also away from home. But I like the draw no bet for them, for PSV, 163. This is a side that has scored 70 goals in the Eredivisie. They're going to win the title for sure. They have dropped very few points domestically. Of course, what happens in the Eredivisie, what happens in Portugal and also in Scotland, I always take it with a pinch of salt, and I don't take it straight to the Champions League normally, my philosophy here. But when a team does so well in the Eredivisie, I think it has to be praised. Like last season, Benfica did so well in Portugal. So they have scored so many goals that I'm going to back them to score over 1.5 goals in this game. They are playing at home. That pays 191. It's a very good money, I would say, for a team that is scoring a lot of goals at home, even against Arsenal in the group stage.
With a big name, De Jong, 19 goals scored in the Eredivisie this season. Both teams to score is around 1.55. For the tie, Borussia Dortmund is slightly favorite, but is very balanced, Dani, this tie.
Maybe this game is a little bit of a bonus for both of these teams. PSV have already won the league. Borussia Dortmund perhaps didn't even expect to be there after being drawn in the group of death, but they done really, really well. Only 1 point after the first 2 games in that group, and then still came out on top. The issue with Borussia Dortmund is they lack creativity, cutting edge. Only Brandt up until December was the most creative player. So they had this Sancho in January, who's having a good impact. And Ian Madsen, left back from Chelsea, won the Rookie of the Month in the Bundesliga in January. So now they are getting a little bit stronger in the scoring departments. I mean, in 2024, Borussia Dortmund got 14 points from 6 games. They are unbeaten, scored 3 or more in the last 6. The end of 2023 was tragic for them. Only 1 win in the last 8 fixtures. They're 4th, just 1 point above Leipzig. Is no guarantee they're going to play Champions League football next season. But as I said, the likelihood that they're going to win the Champions League are very, very small. So probably they're going to better focus more on the league. Away form for Dortmund is not bad. Only 1 way defeat in the Champions League. Often a lot of goals in their games. Bundesliga is an over 2.5 goals league. 62% of Bundesliga games for Borussia Dortmund over 2.5 goals. What can we say about PSV? They attack a lot. 9th for attempts on target in the competition. Perhaps they were a little bit lucky against Lens. They do concede. They conceded in 9 out of 10 Champions League games this season, also in the preliminary stages. It's the Peter Bosz approach. They give a lot of opportunities also to the opposition, but they do score and push forward. Where was the qualification decided for PSV? In that crazy game at Seville. They were 2-0 down. Then Peter Bosz made 3 attacking changes, won 3-2 against a very poor Seville. But it could have gone either way for them. That's why I don't really see them 2 favorites. Although Borussia Dortmund, as Alvaro rightly remember, record in the Champions League is very, very poor. By the way, they lost 8 of the last 9 away knockout ties. The only one was in 2021 at Seville under Terzic. But for PSV, this is going to be a historic moment because it's the first knockout game since 2015-2016, lost to Atletico that time. I think it's going to be a draw, and I like the Asian handicap plus 0.25 for Borussia, 1.99 if they draw, you only win alpha stake.
The draw, the 1-1 could be a good result. I think
Yes.
every single team wants the winner of this tie in the quarterfinals. It's not that PSV or Dortmund are weak teams, but perhaps the winner will be the weakest team in the next round. Really balance this PSV, Borussia, Dortmund, or perhaps the quarterfinal teams want the winner of Napoli, Barcelona. Remember that we are talking about the Italian champion and the Spanish champion, but both are having an awful season. And Napoli, very bad when they play, especially when they play at the Maradona again. They couldn't beat Genoa. They were even lucky to get the equalizer in the last minute at the weekend. They are in the position number 9 in Serie A, still without Sambuanguisa or Osimhen at the weekend. And Barcelona, they are not doing any better. They were also lucky, Alvaro, to get the victory in Vigo. Another penalty. The results, the gameplay is not getting better, despite Xavi's words in press conference. How do you see this Napoli-Barcelona? Because Barcelona, they are terrible at defending. We always see so many goals in their games, but Napoli, they are terrible at attacking.
Yeah, they have scored 33 goals in the Serie A, Napoli, I'm talking about here. Napoli are 9th in the Serie A, so I think that there are different levels here. The title defense of Napoli has been very catastrophic, but at the same time, it was much more surprising that they won the Scudetto than it was Barcelona winning La Liga. So I give that to them. I mean, what Napoli did last year was very special, and they were never going to keep the level. But when it comes to Barcelona, you were mentioning about the terrible season they are having, and it's true. But the irony of all this is that probably Joan Laporta is happy with how the finances are going to look if the team qualifies for the quarterfinals. He's already very happy with the team having qualified first in the group and with the team playing the last 16 rounds, because Barcelona needs the Champions League money to keep on paying the bills. But, I don't have any faith on Barcelona. Maybe for this tie, yes, they can go through because they are capable of that, and they got still like a few competent, good players. Lewandowski is scoring. Lamine Yamal is basically taking all the responsibility, and he's 16 years old, which is something that is both surprising and concerning, because he's not good to put so much pressure over the shoulders of a 16-year-old boy. I remember what happened to Pedri. I remember what happened to Ansu Fati, players who were playing every single minute, especially Pedri, and then they suffer bad injuries, and they are not yet the players they were. But Barcelona is a team with no personality, and I know that Xavi alluded to the big data to say that Barcelona are having the best numbers in La Liga according to big data, but Xavi is also not telling us all the truth, because Barcelona has scored 7 goals in the closing stage of the games in La Liga, which is a record. Barcelona is relying a lot, and they did also on Saturday, on late goals to get the points. And yes, they can score goals. Barcelona can score goals because they've got good strikers, especially Lewandowski, who is kind of finished but still scoring goals, and then decent midfielders, good midfielders, even with Gundogan being probably the best one they've got. But Barcelona has conceded 24 goals in 12 games in 2024. That's an average of 2 goals conceded. And do you explain this because Ter Stegen has been out and because Gavi is no longer there, and Gavi was the player who was, making everyone join his pressure to get the ball back? It's not only that. Barcelona last season didn't have a method to record clean sheets. It was an individual performance, a collective performance. It was an effort, but there was no method, no tactical method behind it. So when you lose that attitude from the players and that compromise, you're going to start conceding. So I think that Barcelona are going to concede, but they can score as well. So I'm going to go for both teams to score 161, or otherwise over 2.5 goals. I equally like it, 175.
And Barcelona suffered already this season in Europe, lost to Antwerp, lost to Shakhtar away. Barcelona's last 2-3 years in Europe are awful, Dani, but for Napoli, where are the good news?
There aren't. Minus 29 points compared to last season in the table. 9th. They are closer to the bottom 3 than to the top of the league. And the rumors are if Mazzarri loses this one, he's going to be sacked. It's going to be a third manager, probably Calzona, who's the current manager of Slovakia, who's been there, assistant of Sarri and Spalletti. And I think what the President De Laurenti must do is a profound mea culpa, because the biggest error that he's made was to thinking that anybody could have managed the team that won the Scudetto in such a spectacular fashion. So when he parted company with Spalletti, thought, yeah, it was an easy job. Napoli are so strong and they're going to roll over. Well, that was not the case, because Spalletti was the glue, the chemistry that kept everything together. Lost that, and the players have returned to their normal form. You know, they're good players, but the likes of Di Lorenzo, Juan Jesus, Lobotka, Zambanguissa, they're not top players. Napoli's only have one top player, who's Osimhen, and Kvaratskhelia in his second season is struggling. I think they kind of read his game a little bit. Osimhen should be fit, by the way, to play this one. He's been absent since 23rd of December. He's already on his way out. Hopefully for us, he could finish the last 4 months of his contract there in glory, but it's very, very difficult. If one thing Napoli and Barcelona have in common, more than one thing, of course, the Maradona links, the fact that both were champion, is that also Napoli score a lot of late goals. They needed late goals against Genoa, they needed against Verona, against Salernitana. It's that 3 home games in a row where they need a late goals to get something out of the game, and that's not healthy. You know, when you are good, strong, you shouldn't need to score in the 90 minutes. Yes, of course, Napoli have got good resources on the bench, the likes of Lindstrom, Gonge, Simeone might come in, but yeah, they should put the games away earlier. For Napoli, this game is crucial, because if they win the tie and they qualify to the quarterfinals, they got chances to play in next year Clubs World Cup, which means 50 million euros, and which means Napoli, which will probably going to be without the Champions League money next year, they can start rebuild in a much more strong way. If they don't, I don't think, you know, we're going to see it, the Napoli level we saw last season for a very, very long time. We talk about Barca being awful so far, but they are unbeaten away from home in La Liga. I know they scored a lot of goals late. I read the stats. They rescued 19 points in the last 10 minutes of La Liga matches, but they're unbeaten in La Liga. Look, how the game might go, I think when there are two teams that are in crisis, that are in low confidence, normally the game might be decided by individualities. And I think Barca, in this moment, they got a little bit more than Napoli in terms of top players in form, like so Lewandowski above all. So I do like Barcelona is an handicap 0 here, 204. I know it's risky because the big defeat might be around the corner for Barca, but I can't trust Napoli to win this one. Barcelona is an handicap 0.
Barcelona, they have to play in all the big stadiums in La
Liga.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, and the numbers lie, because really, the numbers don't lie, but the performance against Real Sociedad at the beginning of the season away was one of the poorest Barcelona I've ever seen, and yet they managed to win. They drew 2-2 with Granada in a terrible game. They also deserve, in my opinion, to lose at Getafe at the beginning of the season, and they didn't. It was 0-0. Barcelona away, again, as I said with the clean sheets last season, the clean sheets are there and they are unquestionable because numbers are unquestionable, but there was no method behind to get the clean sheets apart from some individual effort. With the good results away of Barcelona, there is no method either. It's a number of consequences, a number of casualties, a number of coincidences. I think that in Europe, we have seen Barcelona playing terribly away, especially against Shakhtar Donetsk, and I wouldn't be too surprised if they lose control of the game at phases, as they did against the Ukrainian side.
They are favorites to qualify. Barcelona 1.57, Napoli to qualify 2.38. I listened to some Barcelona fans or journalists wishing Barcelona to go out in this stage, just not to face Man City or Real Madrid or Arsenal in the next round and get humiliated again in Europe. But they have
money.
Of course, yeah, money and a good chance to qualify. You never know. Milan was not that strong last season, and they reached the final, the semi-final, for instance, with a good draw. And the last game, probably the biggest favorite in this week. I'm talking about Porto. Arsenal really favorite for the tie. They are smashing every team now in the Premier League, and they are in the run to win the Premier League. Arsenal to win in Do Dragao is 1.7. Apart from the strong Arsenal, we also saw, Dani, a kind of poor Porto in the group stages. I think we expected a little bit more from Porto as well.
Yeah, and we expect a little bit more in the season in general. They're third in the league, 2 defeats in the last 12, so they're still doing well. But yeah, I mean, they haven't impressed me so far this season. They finished second against Barcelona in the group, probably could have won the group. It was easy, after all, with Antwerp, the weakest team in the Champions League. And is a team that is a little bit in transition. They got rid in the summer of the 2 best midfielders, Ottavio and Uribe. We know Taremi is going to leave at the end of the season, free transfer to Inter. He's not starting anymore. So there's been a bit of a turnover, but probably they're still not quite there in terms of quality. It's a team that you can read very easily. 4-2, 4-3, sometimes very, very compact, very disciplined. That's what Conceição has given them year on year. But has he take them into the next level? Last season against Inter, in the knockout stages, they were underwhelming, really. They only produced 1 chance at the end in the second leg. Yeah, not enough for me. But they got some players that are in good form. Evan Nilsson, 19 goals already. Probably has been the biggest revelation of the season, although 2 seasons ago he scored 21. They won 2-0 at the weekend. They scored in 10 of the last 14 Champions League game. But Do Dragao is not one of the tough places to go anymore. They lost 5 of the last 12 home matches in the Champions League, and in the last 3 seasons they lost against Lyon, Liverpool, Atletico, Bruges, Barcelona. So it's not really a place that intimidates big team anymore, as it used to be perhaps mid 2000. And Arsenal, since they returned from Dubai, from the mini break, they've been lethal. They've been incredible. Before the winter break, they were winless in 4 and just scored 2 goals. Now 5 Premier League games, scored 21 times. They got a record set pieces scoring 25 times. So they find different way to score. But now they're winning comfortably, when before they were struggling against teams with low blocks, a lot of sources goals. As we said, even Declan Rice corner, Odegaard, 33 goals involvements in last season, plays more in a central role. Saka goals in 4 consecutive Premier League games. Probably Arsenal, the dark horse of this Champions League. The first time they participate in the competitions from a long time, but they could be within the best teams. And look at the numbers, how much they improve. In the last 13 Premier League games, first for expected goals, first for goals and shot, 6 away clean sheets, by the way, top of the away table, and top of the table if you only take into account expected goals, home and for and against. So yeah, the numbers in this case do not lie. Arsenal Asian handicap minus 0.75 for me, 195. I mean, a win for Arsenal and you win, probably a win by one more than 1 goal. It's on the cards.
Well, the dark horse, Dani, Arsenal are the 3rd favorite to win the competition right now, just behind Man City and Real Madrid.
They weren't until Bayern lost to Lazio, I guess. Yeah. They were 4th. So yeah, I mean.
Even lower odds than PSG, for instance, to win. I guess, Alvaro, no questions about how favorite Arsenal is for this game. The question is if we should take these 1.7 odds to win at Do Dragao.
I will take them. I will take them, definitely. I tend to think that the bookmakers magnify English sides at the expense of other league sides. But with Arsenal, the hype is totally justified. I really think that in the season of the return to the Champions League, they are performing really well. They could have gotten even more points in the group stage. They just didn't, but their qualification never looked in peril. I think that they were dominant when they had to be. And some of the performances, like the first half against Sevilla, for example, were phenomenal. The season of Arsenal is the season of a team which is really, really consistent and regular. Therefore, they are suited to fight for the Premier League. And it's a season of a side who is very good in the head-to-head. In the Premier League, they got 4 points out of 6 against Liverpool, and they beat Manchester City. There is a fixture against Manchester City coming up at the Etihad that will be decisive to win the Premier League. But what I mean with this is that Arsenal is not only destroying lesser sides and then suffering against the big six in the Premier League or the teams that are with them in the title race. No, Arsenal has the capacity to compete individual games against the best ones, and also the capacity to be consistent week in, week out. So be very careful with this team. It's a warning to Europe. I mean, Arsenal, it's a side that doesn't have to start with that silly debate about who should be the goalkeeper. I think David Raya has stopped it with good performances, helped, of course, by William Saliba, Gabriel Magalhaes, Ben White, and whoever plays on the left. Could be Zinchenko this time, by the way, otherwise it will be Kivior. The defense is working very well. Declan Rice, to me, is one of the players who has grown more as a footballer over the last 2 years. 2 years ago, I wasn't into the hype of Declan Rice. I think that he was a player who was keeping the ball too much, running with the ball horizontally a lot just to protect himself from pressure. This year, he's giving the right pass in the right time. He's definitely more incisive, and he's a beast when it comes to set pieces, not heading them, but being the guy who delivers the ball to the box, because his right foot is really, really accurate. And then I think that Martin Odegaard is one of the best creative midfielders in the world. Sometimes he looks like the best because his performances have been phenomenal. And, I can only praise Arsenal. They have scored 21 goals in the last 5 games. And if the Arsenal win is not enough for our listeners, because it pays 171, it's more than enough for me. You should know that Arsenal has won the first half 5 times in this Champions League. 5 times in 6 games. So Arsenal to win the first half is something that you should be looking at. Or otherwise, Arsenal to win at 30 minutes, 288, is something that pays a lot of money, but I wouldn't go for that one. It's too speculative, in my opinion. And Porto, at the end of the day, is Porto, even though they are having a difficult season. Look, with Sergio Conceição, we knew that Porto, every 2 years, every second year, they were winning the title. That has been the trend. They won it, they didn't win it. They won it again, they didn't win it. Well, they are not going to win the title for back-to-back seasons, which is an oddity for Conceição and something not too good for him and his future at Porto. By the way, Conceição was already sending this kind of messages to the fandom that the fandom doesn't like. He was asking for a better atmosphere at Dragao, something that Pep Guardiola has urged the Etihad to do at times, but Guardiola is winning. Conceição this time is not. So, I don't know how that is going to go down with the fans. But anyway, Arsenal to win 171, I like it. I back Arsenal to win in the first half. I could back it. Or Arsenal scoring in the first half is something that I could back too, because Arsenal scoring just 1 goal in the first half or more, it pays 167.
Arsenal Asian handicap -1, for instance, is 2.2. That could be a good option. It's not a great season for Portuguese side in Europe. Braga or Benfica went down to the Europa League. 1 loss. Benfica won in the very last minute. Only Sporting Lisbon are doing things slightly better, but also Porto struggling in the group stages, and I guess they should go out in this last 16 round against Arsenal, the biggest favorite in this week in the Champions League. 4 games analyzed by our experts. Now is our time, of course, to trust and see which bets we can do this week. In the meantime, tell me, Alvaro, your safe bet for this match day. Is Arsenal to win?
A little bit less. Asian handicap -0.25 for Arsenal, 1.5.
You all trust a lot Arsenal, Dani?
Bit risky this one, maybe. Napoli, Barcelona, both teams to score, 162.
Yeah, it's good. And the ACCA?
My ACCA is 3 selections. PSV, Borussia Dortmund, double chance, X2. Barcelona, Asian handicap 0. Arsenal, Asian handicap -1. Total odds, 804.
High one. Alvaro?
It would be a draw no bet for PSV. Napoli, Barcelona, both teams to score. Arsenal to win and over 1.5 goals in the game against Porto. Altogether, 524.
I can see you both agreeing in a lot of stuff in this video. Let's see what happens in the Champions League. We saw a big surprise last week with Bayern Munich losing to Lazio. Let's see if this week we have another big surprise. Thanks, Alvaro. Thanks, Dani. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Thank you.